Welcome back, folks. This is the second part of a series on the double initial murders from about 50 years ago. And my partner in crime today, if you will, is Sergeant CJ Zimmerman. Good to have you back. We had a great first episode just giving an overview of these incredible crimes, the initial investigation and the work that's been done ever since. And I think people are utterly fascinated by this whole investigation. It's the similarities that we talked about, utterly incredible.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned a couple other partners.
Yes, I
as
did.
you're exposing this investigation and opening it up a little wider and doing some unique things here at the Sheriff's Office. But the State Police and the Wayne County Sheriff's Office has joined us. And so if you want to do some introductions real quick.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what we were talking about earlier, I am just a sergeant driving the train for the Carmen Colon case of
Right.
Monroe County Sheriff's. The subject matter expert, the case agent for that case is Deputy Mike Houlihan.
Exactly.
He knows all about the case inside and out, far more than I do. And then the case agent is with the New York State Police, Investigator Eric Fuenfstueck, and then Lieutenant Kevin Kuntz here with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Well, it's great having you here. How about just for the audience, a little bit about yourself, your career, where you've come from. Just found out you used to work at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
I did. Thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah.
Investigator Eric Fuenfstueck with the New York State Police. I'm assigned to the Major Crimes Unit, and the Wanda Walkowicz case is assigned to me as a cold case investigation. As the sheriff said, I did start here back in '94, I believe, as a blue shirt or a deputy sheriff trainee. Moved on to become a part-time deputy with Monroe County before I left and went to the State Police. I enjoyed
That's
working here in the time. I was here for probably 3 years part-time, and worked between the parks and Department of Social Services and the airport, and left to go to the state in '99, where I worked in various spots all the way up in Malone, northern New York. Made my way back here to Troop E, worked in Auburn, Wolcott, Williamson, Lyons as an investigator, and now I'm in Major Crimes, and I've been an investigator since March of 2012.
And my experience with the State Police in particular the Major Crimes, just been utterly incredible from my days in the Rochester Police Department, but in Greece. I mentioned the cold case we were working out there from the Holiday Inn fire from back in the 70s, and bringing the State Police and their agents were utterly incredible. Their investigators come in and help us, if you will, organize, like you talked about, CJ, in the first episode, organize that whole investigation first before you move forward with it. So we got a lot of appreciation for the State Police and how they support everybody around the community. It's a great organization.
Well, thanks for that, Sheriff, and we're willing to help anybody.
Yeah, you are.
Any agency, anytime, anywhere.
And they don't come in with this takeover attitude. They come in 100% assist and see how we can support the local agencies.
Yeah, we don't need to be in the limelight. We'll sit in the background and do what needs to get done.
You're done. Well, you do it. So congratulations. LT.
Yes, my name is Kevin Kuntz. I'm currently the lieutenant of the Detective Division at the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. Was hired back in 1995, part-time in our jail, actually. I worked a couple of years part-time there and then got hired full-time on the road patrol in 1997. Got promoted in 2003 to the Detective Division, and about a year ago got promoted to lieutenant of the division. Started working on the Michelle Maenza case probably around 2005. Myself and another former detective who's now retired kind of took over the investigation from the Wayne County Sheriff's portion of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's amazing how these our first episode, we took a pretty deep dive into what the Sheriff's Office is doing and just overlaid a little bit of what you guys are doing now to dig deeper into what these investigations, how you're doing your own, but yet how you're coordinating the information exchange, because somewhere out here is we're assuming one suspect for all three homicides, and the ability to share all that information and coordinate and communicate is pretty cool. That the public doesn't see. They don't see all this background work being done by you guys and us, and then the coordination meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you the great thing is that ever since, we started having meetings together and working together, and you guys can comment, but I think we get along really, really super well.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of fun
Yep.
getting together and going over this stuff.
Why did Lieutenant wink when he said absolutely?
Yeah, it's good even as some of the names change over the years. People retire,
Right.
but still everyone has got that common goal of it's a very interesting, fascinating case. It's been quite a few years, and but there's still a lot of evidence to look over and get a fresh set of eyes sometimes to take a look at.
Yeah, and just to give you a little background, Sheriff, when I was talking earlier about our case files being under the old records management system, it was January 2022 that I asked Eric to come over to A-Zone and show me what you do with your files.
Right.
And he went over and he said, well, this is what you need to do. And Mike Houlihan was there with me, and he went over step by step, showed me exactly how we needed to organize our files. And then 8 months later, we ended up following what his example, which is actually right there, the way that.
So, investigator, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you have a leads desk.
Yes,
Yes.
I do. I have a large one for this case. I think we're up over 850 leads for ours. That's pretty much how we do all our big investigations. We do use a lead desk. It helps organize everything and puts everything right at your fingertips when you need to find something for, it's not just all boxes of paperwork thrown everywhere.
Yeah, so all that communication and cooperation that started a year and a half ago between Eric and
Yeah,
I.
and again, give the state police credit. That's something, again, going back to our days at Holiday Inn Fire. Just coming in and organize it with a leads desk mentality. But structure is the first thing, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Helps the investigators keep moving forward. It
Right.
gives them something to do, gives them a task, get out there, do this, do that, then report back, and we'll give you something else to do. But
Right.
and then you make sure you get all your steps done. It's easy for getting it all done.
Yeah.
And the great thing is, now that we got our files in the leads desk format, there will come a point in time, I think, where we'll be able to merge those once they're all digitized and electronic. We could, you just hit a sort button and you can merge them all together or unmerge them, however you want to do it.
Or at the
manipulate
very
them.
least, you can see what I have, search a name
Yeah.
through our lead log and say, hey, yeah, right there, go to 615 and look up at everything we have and compare it to what you have. Or
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the major things that happened is, quite a few years ago, just coming up with a master name list for each case and being able to, when one of us gets a phone call from a citizen with a tip, that we can look and see where that name has previously appeared and kind of give it some weight and see if it's been looked at before and what steps we can do to, act on that lead based on what's been done previously.
So how about just a little dive into your particular investigations? Again, we talked a little bit about our investigation, but where you sit with that, anything from the original crime scene that you'd like to share with people, or current leads you're working on. Obviously, you can share. Don't share state secrets, of course, but just a quick update on your investigation and where you guys sit from the state police and from Wayne County's point of view.
Well, with the Wanda case, we're still tracking down leads. I'm getting names, not every day, but frequently enough that I've got people to track down, and depending on what information comes in, whether they think it's their grandfather, their brother, their uncle that might have been responsible for this, we're running around trying to find them, see if they're still alive, and hopefully get DNA so that we can compare it to what we do have.
And Wayne County?
Similar, we're trying to, again, like Investigator Fuenfstueck mentioned, the possibility of being able to match, whoever did this up through DNA. Again, we are taking the leap that at least two of the cases, if not three, are connected. So the fact that we do still have some evidence DNA-wise, whether a suspect is living or even deceased, to be able to eliminate them or prove who this was once and for all.
Right.
I think DNA is going to be the key.
There are a couple different potential theories. Number one is that it is the same killer.
Right.
But then also, we don't know. And it could very well be two separate killers. I mean, we've all discussed Colon is a little bit different than Maenza and Walkowicz. So it could be one, it could be two, it could be three. But the bottom line is, if we are able to match the DNA, then at least we have one killer, and that's important.
Yeah, very important. Did any of you speak with the family members? Did the family members call or talk, or you give them updates?
Yep, I still talk to Wanda's sister, Michelle.
Wow.
Probably every once in a while. I'll call her tomorrow and let her know we did this.
Yeah.
I did do a news story back on the 3rd of this month when it was the actual 50th anniversary of Wanda being found. She knew that was going to hit the news, and she's very grateful
Right.
for all of that. So, yeah, we still talk. She still wonders what's going on and hopes we're still moving forward with it.
And I've talked to Michelle Maenza's older brother, Stephen.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've talked to him, but I did talk to him in the past. Both of Michelle's parents have been deceased for quite a few years, but she still has a few siblings in the area. So.
And I think that's so important that after 5 decades that law enforcement doesn't forget, right? And we won't forget them and their loved ones. And, you guys were barely born and not born. I think we said off the air.
Maybe.
Maybe. Make you feel like an old man. But the fact is that doesn't matter. You swore an allegiance to a calling, and that's to bring justice for victims of crime. And
Yeah,
you
somebody's
guys are
gotta be
still
their
on
voice.
it. Yeah, you're still on it. That's impressive.
We can keep looking at what we have, the evidence that we have, and maybe re-examine some of the stuff. We still have some items left from the Wanda's case, and look at what technology we have that we can use now to see if we can pull a string on something and get something to kick us going in the right direction.
Yeah, so there are actually 3 avenues that we're kind of going down. Number one, first and foremost, getting everything organized and getting all our records together. And then there's 2 other avenues that one is that we've talked about, and we don't even know if it's potential. It doesn't appear to be a potential at this point, but familial and genealogical DNA, but we don't think that's the case. But it may be 5 or 10 years down the road. We don't know.
Right.
And then there is a third avenue, and that is where we've just started with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, is all the list of suspects. We're going through them, and we're assigning them different tiers or different levels of probability of how much we like them versus how much we don't. People who are given a rating of number 1 are ones who, boy, they make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. The ones who you really think, man, this guy could have done it. And then if they were given a ranking of number 5, that's pretty much they've been eliminated as suspects. But then going out and getting DNA from those people, if they're alive, or if they're not, then they're family members, and running those profiles. And that's a whole other conversation right there. But those are the investigative steps that we're looking at taking.
So think about this. 50 years ago, DNA,
They didn't know what it was.
right, wasn't a way. The crime scene preservation by the state police in Webster, if you will, the securing of evidence. You can't just look and gloss over that. I mean, that's incredible that we possibly could solve this crime today, or 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, based on what an investigator or evidence technician or a trooper did, 50 years ago. That's police work 101 that we shouldn't just gloss over, though.
No, absolutely. They, everybody that responded out to that scene, dealing with what they knew at the time,
Right.
Is why we have evidence today. So, they did a great job. And everybody that's touched this case between then
Right.
and now,
Yeah.
has all left their little mark on it in one way or another.
Yeah, they all had the same motivation we have. Well, we're cops. We want to
Yeah,
solve this thing.
absolutely.
Right? That's in our
Absolutely.
DNA right there. We're bloodhounds on a trail.
Yeah, follow
And-
every lead.
Speaking of the technology, I can only speak for, I think both cases actually, or all 3 cases. A lot of the evidence from all 3 cases at the time, all they were able to do is basically test that evidence for what the person's blood type might have been.
Right.
So blood typing stuff. So a lot of the evidence was actually consumed, again, with the best technology they had at the time, which unfortunately for us, 50 years later, really doesn't narrow down. I think it was like 85% of the population still could be the suspect based on that evidence. So,
Yeah.
like you said, the fact that there was enough evidence still left on the Wanda Walkowicz case is a huge thing.
And another thing that we're doing, and just last week, the 3 of us, along with Deputy Houlihan and some other investigators, we all got together with Captain Lynn Johnston, who's retired, but he's the one that chased down Dennis Termini when Dennis Termini killed himself. But he was a police officer back during these crimes. He had intimate and personal knowledge about what happened, and the 3 of us just wanted to pick his brain and see
Interviewing
what
him,
he
huh?
had to say about
He
it.
had a lot of information.
He did, and he the way he conveys it is very animated and engaging, and we were all just sitting around the table listening to him.
Right.
Yeah, still remembering details from 50 years ago, intimate details.
Yeah, he's a special breed, anyways.
He is,
Captain Johnson.
absolutely.
He's
Yeah.
just a special, and his DNA goes on law enforcement generations later, and with his boys, and also a Unity Tour
Yes.
bike rider.
And
We
he's
might have done
riding
that
this
together.
year
He's
as
riding this year. At what? A young age of what?
74
God bless him.
or
That's
something
70,
like
yeah,
that.
76, something like that.
So if there's information that you three wanted to get out to the public, I know you got leads coming in all the time, and you know my uncle or my grandfather or whatever. But what do we want to say to the public? What do we want to say to people that might have information? Is there anything you'd like to get out to those folks out there that are going to be watching this and saying, you know what, I never said this,
Well,
but I'd like to.
I think you hit on it. I mean, we've recently had calls from, family members who believe that their father or grandfather or their uncle might have been involved. Maybe it was, a family secret that a father or an uncle or a grandfather, could have done this,
Right.
and no one wanted to bring it up at the time.
Right.
But it doesn't hurt to bring it up now and let us,
Great
do
point.
the legwork on it. Get a DNA sample, eliminate somebody. Sometimes it's more of a relief to a family that, hey, my relative wasn't involved in this, and more people we can eliminate, we can focus on the next suspect.
LT, you bring up a great point. We can actually clear the name of one of your relatives from the standpoint that you've been thinking. Someone's been thinking that for
Right.
decades now. And
Yeah, decades.
What a relief for the family.
Yeah, now you know. They're not involved. But yeah, I think the big important part is for everybody to know that we're still working these cases. Just because they're 50 years old, 40 years old. I got one that's from 1961.
Wow.
But yeah, we're still working them. We're still looking for that information. And whatever information you have, whether you think it's small and minute or doesn't mean anything, let us figure it out.
Yeah.
Get it to us, and if we figure out that it's not case related, or it could be the one thing that gets us going in the right direction.
I'd like to add, the biggest message that I'd like to get out there is just piggybacking on what you guys already said. We never give up, and that there is hope, and especially in this case where there is DNA, there is potential there. And then on top of that, I see this team that, and again, it's Deputy Houlihan and these two young men, I'll call you. But the three of you, the way I see everybody working together is awesome.
Yeah.
It's absolutely awesome. And there's so much communication and cooperation, 100%. And I think that is what's going to get the case solved, because this case is a gargantuan case with well over 10,000 pages of documents. And it takes a team, and the team has to be gelling and working together, and that's what we have right now. So we have the greatest potential right now to solve this.
Yeah, and there's no reason not to, right? I mean,
No,
there's
not
stone
really.
left unturned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've talked about, too, looking at the, obviously, 50 years having gone by. I know in the Michelle Maenza's case, the suspect was described as being in his mid-20s, so we know there's a good possibility that this person could be deceased, even years ago. But I think as big of an impact as it had on the community, and again, the surrounding area, going out to Webster and into Wayne County and down into Riga, Churchville area. I think the community has an expectation that
Right.
this.
We can throw that map up, the pin map of where the abductions occurred and where the victims were found. But I'm a visual person, and you start looking at these things. And one of the things I was talking in the first episode is CJ was briefing me one day. I was doing where was Arthur Shawcross at the time, right? Because we know he murdered a couple kids
Yeah.
up in Watertown, and we knew he had an affinity towards Rochester and rural areas. And it's pretty fascinating that they're all abducted in Central City, Rochester. Yet abducted, their bodies were found in very
Interesting
rural.
you bring up Arthur Shawcross. He was actually in the original lead sheets.
Yeah, was he really?
Yeah.
And,
See, I thought that was my clue.
and he was actually, I believe, locked up.
Yeah, he
the
was. Yeah,
Watertown
he was.
homicide.
He was in custody at the same time. For two, he wasn't, and for one, he was. I thought I had your. I had yourself, but you guys already had that as a lead, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Way back in, I
That's
think
why
it
I'm the
was
sheriff and not an
73 or 4. Yeah.
Yep.
That's fascinating. So, guys, I just wanted to bring you on. Let the public know what's occurring with this investigation. That hasn't been forgotten. This was national news, and it's popped back up in the national news a couple times in the last 50 years. But for the last time, I think I'll say it, it's utterly incredible. I hope the families feel a sense that your loved one will never be forgotten, your brother, your sister, or if this happens to you, the victims will never be forgotten by law enforcement. It's our job, it's our goal, and if you're like me, and I'm sure you all three are, our goal is to get them. We just want to get them. We'll go where the evidence leads us. If we don't get the evidence, we don't build the case. We don't build, but we'll keep on pursuing that.
You're
to the
right.
end of
When
the
you
yard.
raise your right hand to take your oath, whether it's by the sheriff of the county you're working in, or the city police chief, or the superintendent of the state police, you're all saying you're going to do the same thing, and you're going to work hard, and you're going to work hard for those victims, and do the very best you can. And it can't go unnoticed, the amount of work that RPD put into these two,
Yeah, great
way
point.
back.
Great point.
I know when Wanda was reported missing, they threw all kinds of manpower at it to try to find her in the neighborhood. So yeah, they got the ball rolling too at the beginning with all these girls coming out of the city.
I was telling CJ, my wife grew up on Love Street, which is the Bull's Head neighborhood where the first abduction occurred, at the same age, at the same time. So it's a small world that, but you watch these guys just digging and digging and digging 50 years ago. You guys are doing the same thing today. Think about that, just digging for that one clue, that one piece of evidence. And that's the beauty of our job.
Yeah, and well over 1,000 officers have put, many hours of labor into this, and everybody is all part of the team, whether they're with us or they're not with us anymore. That we're all on the same team.
Right. Well, we pray for success. We pray for handcuffs, justice, a conviction if ever possible. But more importantly, I think our job is just keep our nose to the ground and keep on pursuing every lead that comes in, and that's our job description. Whether it gets solved, we don't know. But our job is to
Just keep digging.
Amen. Well, thanks, guys. Troopers,
Yep.
Wayne County Sheriffs, RPD, you mentioned them. We've had conversations with the District Attorney's Office, obviously the Sheriff's Office. I mean, it's just great that everybody comes together and tries to put the right foot forward. And so thanks for what you do for a living. We can't underestimate who we are, the good guys in the community, and tenacious investigators. I can never be one. You guys are incredible.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Sheriff.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
any lead could do this.
Call in. You got a number you'd like them to call, or go on the website, or what?
Yeah, they can just go to the state police website or call the troop headquarters at 585-398-4100 and get information. Drop a tip. I think they can use the VICAP email and go from there.
Just drop a tip. I like it.
Wayne County Sheriff's Office, you can contact us at 315-946-5800.
Did you say 315?
Yes.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. With that, CJ, thanks for joining me again. Appreciate it. Thanks for all your efforts going forward, and be safe out there in your particular jurisdictions.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.